bring in Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia. She sits on the Appropriations Committee. Senator, good to see you this afternoon. We have heard of little bits of incremental progress. What are you hearing there?
Well, I'm hearing exactly that. I know the negotiations are continuing now at 3:30. The Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, and the Treasury Secretary meeting with Speaker Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They were at our lunch today, Mark Meadows and Mnuchin. They said they're still very far apart, but they're working hard at it. I tend to always be overly optimistic, but we have to do something. There are a lot of people hurting, and there are a lot of people expecting us to throw those partisan differences aside and reach agreement.
Although it's been said, if you're a pessimist, things usually go better than you expect them to. The Republican read on the Democrats is that they're happy to talk, but they're not interested in making a deal. Is that your sense of it?
You know, disappointing to me was last week when one of our members, Martha McSally, offered a week extension of the $600 extra benefit on unemployment, just to get us to this point where we could, allay the fears of people who are now disconnected from that. And, the Democrats wouldn't play. They rejected it, and they walked away and objected. That was very disappointing, because that tells me it's more about the talking point. But you know what? We're going to keep moving forward. This is beyond Republican and Democrat political scoring points. These are people who are unemployed, many of them through no fault of their own. We've got to keep working together. We've got to get our schools open. But we have to keep focused on what we really need to do, not all of the extraneous things that we see in Speaker Pelosi's bill.
Of course, one of the big sticking points is this enhanced unemployment of $600 a week. Well, why not just re-up it until the end of the year? Now, certainly, it may be a disincentive for some people to go back to work, but then we've also seen stories of people who may work at a hotel or a bar or something, who make a lot of money on tips, and they don't get the unemployment insurance for the tips. So this is really helping them pay the bills. I know there's a lot of opposition to it among your Senate Republican colleagues, but why not just re-up it for the rest of the year?
Well, I think you have to look at what's good for the long term and what's good for reopening the economy, getting people back to work, getting the kids in daycare. And I think when you see that $600 extra a week benefit was meant to be a 4-month temporary, I think we ought to ratchet it down, maybe not to $200 like is in our bill, maybe down. Senator Romney has an interesting proposal where it goes down $100 a month. Because eventually people need to get back to work, and many of our small businesses cannot open because of the enticement of that $600 extra a week. There's some people that absolutely have no choice, and we need to help them, and we have been helping them and will continue to do so.
The president, Senator, is threatening unilateral action if the Congress can't come up with anything. Is that something you would support?
I'm not sure how he does that, quite frankly. I think it's much I think it's much better coming from us, the representatives of all the people that are affected. We've done this. This is our 4th CARES package. It's just a matter of prioritizing, figuring out where we want to go, getting those schools open, getting that vaccine out, getting our help to our small businesses, and helping those unemployed who can't help themselves. That's where we need to go.
Now, the president said yesterday that if he does take unilateral action, one of the things that he might potentially do through an executive order is stop collecting payroll tax. The idea of a payroll tax didn't fly among his Republican colleagues in the Senate. Do you think it's a good idea for him to float it now?
Well, personally, I like the idea of individual assistance, because I think it does help more immediately for those people who might be facing eviction, who can't pay their rent, who can't purchase their food. It worked 3 or 4 months ago, and you could see it steadied the ship a bit. That's the direction I think we would prefer to take it. And you're right, there hasn't been a whole appetite for the payroll tax, because we just don't think it gives you enough of an oomph, of an impact as we're looking at this unsteadiness that we see.
So, I mean, if you were a betting woman, what would you say the over and under on getting a deal is?
Well, we're not going to get anything this week. I could heavily bet on that, I think. And so I think that, we're going to keep working. Hopefully next week we can reach a conclusion. I would prefer that over a big mega bill that Chad was talking about, because there I think you lose the focus of where you really need to zero in on.
Exactly. And I know that you're introducing an amendment with some specificity on mental health and substance abuse. Right. So we'll keep watching that. West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito, good to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.